Well, I'm about to lose some subscribers. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Chris, and today's video is all about 10 fantasy series that I have not read yet and I would really like to get to one day. Now, most of these series are very famous, they're well loved, they're backlist series also for a lot of people, and I just haven't read them, and a lot of that comes from commitment. A lot of them are very long-running series, and also I've only been reading fantasy again for the last sort of 18 to 24 months, and I just haven't picked these up. Now, I am going to start with 3 honourable mentions. These are series that I have started and then I just did not pick up for one reason or another, starting with the Game of Thrones. I don't really watch TV. I think I watched like 3 episodes of Game of Thrones, and I don't like sitting still, so it's hard for me to get invested in a television show, and I'd much rather read the books. I read the first installment of A Game of Thrones, really enjoyed it, really enjoyed the writing style. Yep, it's full of sex and violence, and it's unapologetic in that, but I did genuinely have a good time. I read it at a time before I even started thinking about watching BookTube, let alone having a channel. I just never got around to reading the rest of the book. I had the first one on ebook, and now I have the series, well, what is out of the series, and I'm hoping to get to it at some point, but I have at least started the Game of Thrones journey. The next honourable mention that I have, and I don't have a physical copy, is I haven't read The Last Wish by Andreas. I can't pronounce his last name. Now, I've got the second book here, but I own the first book in the short stories. I have no idea where it is. I've read The Last Wish, I haven't read The Sword of Destiny, but I have no idea where my copy of The Last Wish has gotten to, and I kind of want that really cool illustrated edition, so I'm not mad that I've lost it, so that I can buy the pretty edition with the illustrations. Don't tell Rachel, everyone. Also, I hate the sticker, but I think we all do. But I have read the first short story collection of this. I really enjoyed the first short story collection of it. The Witcher is something that I have actually watched on Netflix. Well, I watched the first season. I didn't really like the second season. But I want to get back into it. I want to read the entire series one day. I haven't picked them up again. The third and final honourable mention is one that people are going to hate me for, because I DNF'd this series, and that is the Farseer Trilogy by Robin Hobb. I read the first book. I thought it was okay. I think the writing is absolutely stunning. I think the character work is very good, but I am a plot and world building driven reader. I haven't hard DNF'd this series. I got to the middle of book 2 and it just wasn't vibing with me. Again, I was reading this at a time when my brain wasn't used to fantastical worlds. I was reading a lot of contemporary, a lot of mysteries and thrillers, and just wasn't really in the fantasy sphere. But I remember liking the first book and then just wasn't vibing with the second book. So I'm not hard DNFing it. It is something that I would like to try again, but if I DNF this series a second time, I probably will not be continuing on with the Realm of the Elderlings. You can all hate me in the comments down below, all of you Robin Hobb lovers. I've heard that the Live Ship Traders is really good, even if you don't vibe with the Farseer Trilogy, and I have that trilogy as well. My wife has that trilogy, so I don't know. Let me know Robin Hobb thoughts down below. Getting into the actual list, these are 10 fantasy series, very famous fantasy series, that I have not read yet. And let's just get the elephant out of the room with The Wheel of Time. What? Am I even allowed to be here if I haven't read The Wheel of Time? I have all 14 books. Again, Rachel has all 14 books, and I've just accumulated them by proxy. But I've never ventured into this world. This is the only one on this list where I'm not sure if I want to commit to the 14 books because of things that other people have said. Readers that I tend to align with have said that they didn't love this series, but I know it is so well loved in the fantasy world, and it's so crucial to so many other fantasy works that are out there. So I've decided that I will be giving the first 3 books a try at some point in the future. I do not know when, but I actually own all 3 versions of this first book. I've got the ebook, I've got the audiobook read by Rosamund Pike, and I have the physical copy. I'm really worried about damaging these physical copies because these look lovely, and I break spines, and I don't want my wife's versions of these books, this complete set in this edition, to be ruined by my nonsense. So I might get them on ebook and just... I don't tab, I don't annotate, so ebook seems like the most logical route for me to go down. Rachel said she's okay with me damaging them. I'm not okay with me damaging them. They look so nice all together without broken spines. Moving on. Speaking of broken spines, let's talk about one that's already come to me damaged. So that's fine. I have no guilt with breaking these spines. And that is the Malazan Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. I have all 10 books. They're up behind me. I desperately want to read this series. I think this is something that's going to be well up my alley, but I was very nervous getting back into fantasy picking this up straight away. I wanted to make sure that my brain was able to comprehend some more complicated works before even considering going anywhere near Steven Erikson's work, but it is something that I've wanted to read since my uni days 10 years ago. I remember going into bookshops, because that's what I did when I was a child, because I was a nerd like the rest of you on this channel. I would go into the bookshops and I kept picking up the cover for Toll the Hounds, which is this one. And I thought, damn, that's a thick book, but that's a cool cover. And I would pick it up every time. I had no idea it was part of a series, except it was always with other Steven Erikson ones, so I presumed. And I don't know, but I was so drawn to this, and I still am. I still think it is one of the coolest covers that I've seen. It's so simple in design, but the Hound looks terrifying, and I at least want to get to this book, but there's a lot of other books to get through before I get to this one that has drawn my attention since I was a wee squig. Another 10-book series which is quite famous in the fantasy world is the War of Light and Shadow. This is by Jenny Wirtz. Jenny Wirtz has a lot of books out and continued on with the Riftwar Saga with Raymond E. Feist, which I'm going to talk about next. But this is another series that is on my radar. I really do want to read this. I've heard that it's in a similar vein to Malazan, where it is quite complex and you need to be on your A game to read this 10-book series. But I have heard that if you're willing to commit to them, the payoff is absolutely amazing. I have heard about this one from a few friends of mine, and my buddy Mark Timoney, who wrote Blood of the Spear, has started again. I believe these were quite influential to his works, so I'm interested to see where I fit in the Jenny Wirtz world. This is one that I'll probably introduce as a buddy read if I hit the next goal on the channel. The next one I've got on this list is the Riftwar Saga by Raymond E. Feist, starting with Magician. This is a real beat up copy. You can't even see half of his name down the bottom there, but I promise it's not a knockoff that I've picked up from the black market. It is a copy of this book, just a very, very old one, and the font is tiny. Okay, who calls a character Pug? Anyway, this is one that I've seen doing the rounds at the moment with other booktubers who've had it on their backlist. I believe the original saga is 4 books before you get into the cycle. Is it the cycle that comes next with Jenny Wirtz? And there's like 30 books in that series. I'm talking about the original 4 books. I have Magician, I have Silverthorn in a similar beat up copy, and I also just bought the 3rd book, which I cannot remember the name of, but I have the first 3. I'm very good at buying 3 in a series and seeing if I gel with it, but honestly, if I read 3 and there's one more book, I should probably just read that 4th book. So that's that one. Moving on. The next one I have is the Broken Earth Trilogy. This is the shortest series on this list, and this is by N.K. Jemisin. I can never say her name. Jemisin. Nailed it. Remember when I said Australians could read? We can read. So this is a polarizing, I believe, series where the first book gets a lot of praise, the second book sort of gets a lukewarm reception, and then the 3rd book again gets a lot of praise to bring it all together. N.K. Jemisin is one of the authors that has been on my radar since getting back into reading fantasy, and I just haven't picked it up. I'm really looking forward to getting to this one. It is one of the series that I still want to complete in 2022, but with my focus being on self-pub and indie, I just don't know where it's going to fit in, but I am hoping towards the end of the year I will read this whole series. Moving right along, we have the Shannara Chronicles by Terry Brooks. I'm talking specifically about the first trilogy. So I believe that is the Sword of Shannara, the Elfstones of Shannara, and Wish Song of Shannara. I have the first three. I picked them up at like a book fair. So this is the first one, and I've got 2 and 3 in a similar style, and I think I got a little bit scared having seen 10 minutes of the adaptation of a show called the Shannara Chronicles. I don't know if it was trying to depict what's in the books. I don't know. But I was like, ew, that doesn't look like it's for me. But I have heard really good things about the Shannara Chronicles, and there's 30 books in this series if I love it. Not this original trilogy, but in the Shannara Chronicles there is 30 books. And I believe Terry Brooks has just said in the last few years that he will no longer be writing in this world, and it has concluded its story, which 30 books in one world is amazing. Don't come for me, Forgotten Realms people. Let's talk about more that I haven't read yet and don't know where they're going to fit in. The next one is the Dragonriders of Pern. This is by Anne McCaffrey. This is one of those rated E for everyone, I believe. Very approachable for multiple different age groups, but a classic fantasy, and it's got dragons. So I picked up this omnibus earlier this year. I got it for like 30 bucks. For 3 books, 30 bucks. Not too bad. I'm probably going to read this early 2023 and take this one with me when we move out of this house, and I no longer have the backlog behind me at my disposal. The next famous fantasy series that has many books in it, I believe it is 17 at this current count, is the Saga of the Recluse by L.E. Modesett Jr., starting with the magic of the Recluse. Now this series has 17 books in it, but I believe, and they're all set in the same world, but I believe that each of them can be read as standalones. Now that as a concept is amazing. I don't know if characters sort of come in and out of the story, I don't know whether plots come in and out of the story, but writing 17 books, which can sort of be read together but sort of be read as standalones, is no easy feat. And this author is still producing books today in new series. There's a steampunk series that I would like to read at some point, but I can't justify the cost of the hardcovers, and if I'm going to get those books, they're going to be hardcovers because they are beautiful. I've gone off on a tangent. I want to read this series. Moving on. Now this next one is another rated E for everyone, so I've been told. I really want the beautiful illustrated edition, but I do not have it yet. That is on a wish list for at some point during the year, and that is the Books of the Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. I'll pop a picture of the edition that I'm waiting for up here on the screen. I've heard so many good things about this author, and every time I see this particular omnibus edition, I just want it. And I've had a look at some of the illustrations that are inside of it, and it's stunning. It's a stunning edition that I need to have on my shelves at some point in the future. Now, I believe this can be read to children. I believe it can be read to young adults. It just sort of is a classic fantasy story that is available for everyone and any age. I'm super curious about Ursula K. Le Guin. I know there's quite a few sci-fi SF Masterworks books that they've put out, and I am curious about those as well, but I would really like to jump into the Books of the Earthsea first. In a similar vein, the last one on this list is accessible for multiple aged audiences, and that is His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. I've been hearing about this book since I was a kid, and I picked up this omnibus edition. It's beautiful. I don't know whether it's because it's very whimsical fantasy that's sort of putting me off, because I like that dark and gritty side to things, but it is a series that I'm very interested in and would like to get to at some point. So that's that one again. So those are 10 fantasy series that I would really like to read at some point, with the exception being Wheel of Time. I'm most scared of disappointing my wife if I don't like the Wheel of Time, because she grew up with the series and it means a lot to her. She cried when the trailer came out for the show. I liked the show. I don't know whether I'm going to get unsubscribed for that, but I think I liked it because I hadn't read the books and I just watched it as a show rather than an adaptation, and I don't know whether reading the books is going to now make me hate the show. So, I don't know. But let me know what you think I should be prioritizing of these series. Are there any that you think I should be jumping into straight away? Screw the TBR and just read one of these series. Let me know in the comments down below. If you like the content, give it one of those. If you want to see more of it, then click subscribe at your will, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.